Welcome to the show. I am happy to have everybody here today. This is a wonderful, kind of cold day in January. It's almost February. I'm Mary Grace. This is Mary Grace TV, and we are really happy to have you here. If you're just coming in, please leave a comment. Please tag people. Please help us get the word out. If you're watching on one of these social media platforms, just hit the hearts, hit the thumbs, leave a comment, whether you're watching live or on the replay. It really, really does help. And so we appreciate that. I have with me today my good friend, Sam Faddis. And I know that a lot of you are always excited when he comes on the show. I'm excited when he comes on the show. Sam is an actual spy. And that's why we call it Spy Talk. So, Sam Faddis, welcome to the show. It's great to have you back. Good to see you.
It is great as always to be here, but I'm a little afraid to talk because right before we came on the air, you told me to stop making weird faces, and this is actually the only face I've got, so I don't know what to do now.
I just want to make sure you're on your toes here because I don't want you coming in disguise.
Okay,
Actually,
ready for me.
I don't want Facebook to pick the weird faces to make as the thumbnail. That's usually what happens. So
Fair
if,
enough.
if if you're doing something weird, they usually pick that. But we can go back and change it, so it's no biggie. But it's great to have you here. We are just as always, like there's crazy things happening. You are really making headway up there with the Pennsylvania Patriot Coalition, and that is something that you have really poured heart and soul into in the past couple of years, especially dealing with election integrity and getting local action on the ground, boots on the ground, grassroots action, and you're pulling together all of these patriot groups around Pennsylvania, which is really just like herding cats. So, give us an update on what you're doing and what your focus is on right now up there in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, like herding a bunch of very unruly cats who also talk back, but that's um,
Yeah.
yeah. But all kidding aside, my privilege because just tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of really dedicated people. Nobody's drawing a paycheck. Nobody's getting financed by some big NGO. No billionaire came in. Everybody that's wandering around the state of Pennsylvania going from place to place speaking is putting their own gas in the car and running up their own odometer. So, all credit to them. We're pushing a whole bunch of issues. We're big on election integrity. We are actively working a whole bunch of challenges to incumbent rhinos around the state of Pennsylvania, if in terms of trying to find shorthand, challenging people who claim they're on our side but don't seem to ever actually show up and,
Yeah.
and fight for anything,
Right.
and which is a huge deal. I mean, that's maybe the issue,
Yeah.
which is we got all these people that claim that they're there for us, but in fact never actually there's never a point where they draw a line in the sand and look, I always say I'm a guy who lived in the real world. I'm a pragmatist, but the bottom line is you got to have convictions, you got to stand for something, or what's the point? And unfortunately we've got a lot of people that are just they stand for nothing right now. This moment in time, we're really rallying support across the state of Pennsylvania for Texas, for the convoy that's headed for
Hmm.
Texas, for support to Texas, to the convoy, but talking financial support, participation, support to the National Guard, to those guys and gals that are out there on the border actually defending the United States of America and standing up for the Constitution. That's our big drumbeat all day, every day. It, look, man, this there really is an invasion. We really are being betrayed by the guy who claims he's the president of the United States. This is it. This is the crisis. We've been talking about the
Yeah.
constitutional crisis. It's here.
Yeah.
Time to stand up and not just sit home and complain. So one way or the other, do something to support Texas in this fight.
Yeah, and you guys are, I mean, it's a long way for people in Pennsylvania to go to Texas. And even in Virginia, where I am right now, it's starting in Virginia Beach, but even for a whole bunch of people to drive from Pennsylvania to Virginia Beach. That's a day or two commitment,
Yeah.
depending on where you are, especially my friends up near Erie. That's a long way.
Yes.
And so shout out to my group up there that you and I spoke at. But it's a long way. And so what kinds of things are you encouraging not only people in Pennsylvania, but people all over the country to do to show solidarity with this movement if they can't actually go physically and join the convoy?
Right. It is. From where I am in PA, it's 2,000 miles.
Yeah,
So
it's a
I'd
long
love to
way.
go. I'd love to go fold in. I can barely breathe most days with all the stuff I got on my plate.
Yeah.
I can't physically do that, and a lot of people, especially end of January, we got 6 inches of snow outside and more coming down. Okay, I get it.
Wow.
We're really pushing. I mean, in addition to generally putting pressure on your elected representatives and speaking up and telling them that you want them to stand against the Biden administration, you can do two things concretely. That is, you can donate. First of all, and we're putting this up. All the links are up on the Pennsylvania Patriot Coalition Facebook page,
Okay.
and I will repost. I repost them regularly, so they're at the top of the feed. And I'm also putting up my own live streams there addressing this issue. So, two big pipes, if you will. One is you can donate directly to what's called Operation Lone Star, which is the Texas National Guard. And if you go to that link, Operation Lone Star, you will see that you can actually direct how your money goes, whether it's how Texas is spending that money, but it's specifically for border security and
Mhm.
the National Guard. The second is the link that's up there. Again, I will keep reposting this for the convoy itself, where you can donate. You know how this goes, Mary Grace. You've been involved
Yeah.
with this. It's not just, you're rolling into wherever they're rolling into, and somebody's showing up and putting out food and putting out water, and
Yeah.
somebody is renting a facility. And
Yeah.
there's a lot of money by the time you're done that goes into this. And again,
Yeah.
there's no big deep pockets NGO behind this, so
Right,
it's
right.
expensive real fast.
And
And you
they're
can donate.
yeah.
I think the minimum donation is $5, so you don't have to show up and give them $5,000. You can show up and give them $10, $25 via this site, and it goes directly to them. That goes a long way.
Yeah, one thing we had a guest on the show last week, Scotty Sachs. He's one of the organizers. He is working with Doc Pete Chambers on
Mhm.
that, and he said that they're using private property
Right.
as the rally points. And one of the concerns that people have, especially after January 6th, is that people are going to be brought into a trap, essentially, and
Mhm.
that they're going to be hit with trespassing charges and things like that. And when we were on the convoy back in 22, was it 22? It seems like so long ago that up in Hagerstown, that was at a private
Right.
event space.
Right.
And so this is how part of the security apparatus that is in place here has to do with bringing people onto private property as opposed to government property, which then the government would use against people. And
Right.
so that's one layer of the safety and security that they have brought into consideration here. And as far as these other issues go, there's a lot of chatter out there about the groups being infiltrated and things like that. And to be honest, guys, that's just the nature of the beast.
Yep.
And, I wouldn't let that scare me away from going, whether you're going to go stand on an overpass and watch the convoy go through, whether you're going to go to one of the rally points and bring food and supplies, whether you're going to donate. I mean, it really is, at the end of the day, your choice. And it's a choice that everybody makes as an American because yeah, you may be targeted. I mean, you've already been targeted for buying a Bible or going to Bass Pro Shops. So why not just round it out with supporting a peaceful First Amendment convoy that's going across the country. Um, that's my thinking on it, you know. So we want to encourage people to get involved. I have a link to the actual convoy website up here, takeourborderback.com. And if you're watching remote, if you're listening to the audio, if you're watching remotely, whatever you're doing, takeourborderback.com. That is the website to participate, or you can go to the Pennsylvania Patriot Coalition Facebook page and look at the links that Sam told you about to get involved with that. Now, it's there's a lot of things about the border that just don't make sense. One, of course, is that Joe Biden is now acting like this is a big emergency
Hmm.
and that he needs the Senate to pass a bill
Hmm.
which will enable him to act. And anybody who understands the way that the Constitution works should know that we don't need new bills. We don't need any new laws in place to protect our border. The commander in chief, as whatever he is, that person,
Hmm.
the commander in chief, that's his job.
Yep.
He has authority to restrict migration into this country at any time when he believes that there is a threat. The problem is he doesn't believe there's a threat, and so he hasn't been incentivized to restrict it. If you recall, when President Trump took office, he put a ban in place, a travel ban from very specific countries where it's impossible to vet people because they don't actually keep records.
Hmm.
And so, and then it was called a Muslim ban. It wasn't a Muslim ban. The
Right.
biggest Muslim majority countries like Indonesia were not banned,
Right.
but countries like Yemen, where they literally have no records of these people. So we know that this is possible, but they're not doing it. Let's talk about why they're not doing it, and maybe why uh, Abbott has decided that now is the time after he's flooded the country with these illegal border crossers. Why is he now concerned?
Right. Well, first of all, let me echo
It's
what
a
you
lot
said
of questions.
about people just standing up and getting involved and not being intimidated and not being afraid. As we always say to people, they say, "Look, if I get involved, are they going to tell me I'm a racist, a transphobe,
Yeah,
a Nazi, a domestic violent extremist?" The answer is yes, 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 yes. Okay, make your call, people. Are you going to stand up for your country? Are you going to put your armor on? Or is being called names going to intimidate you? Are you going to let these people cow you into silence and obedience, or are you going to fight back? I will add this, you and I would both say this, but just for the record, being strong and participating and making a clear statement and pushing back does not imply at any point in this violence. And
yeah,
no matter how angry you get, and no matter how torqued off you get, for the love of God, walk around, get a drink of water, cool down, and do not let somebody provoke you into doing something stupid. Because it won't matter that 30 seconds later you regret it.
yeah,
They will have caught it on video, they will splash it all over the world, and they will brand everybody, including you, as being all about something that we are not. So do not help them by doing that. To your questions that you asked me, the Biden administration, let's just start with this. Virtually everything they say is a lie. We just start with that as like a baseline because the actual
yeah,
policy of the Biden administration is open borders, unfettered
yeah,
migration. As Michael Jan, our good buddy, has pointed out over and over and over, it's not just we're letting people in, we're bringing them here through a conveyor belt of camps.
yeah,
At this point, via the CBP One app or whatever it is, we're letting them fly directly in the United States. So you're paying to bring these people here.
yeah,
And when they get to the border, they do not attempt to evade Border Patrol. Any image you have that they're running through the sagebrush and Border Patrol has to track them down is
yeah,
silly because they seek out Border Patrol and turn themselves in because they
yeah,
know the Border Patrol is now effectively the welcome wagon. They will transport them somewhere, give them a shower, give them a hot meal, give them clean clothes, give them a place to sleep, and then again, At your expense, they will be moved into the interior on charter flights run by NGOs, but all on contract to the US government. So to recap,
Yeah.
you pay for an organized system to bring them here. You pay to bring them across the border. They are held briefly. They're given a notice to appear at a hearing, which in many cases is now 10 years in the future. This is a charade. This is silliness. This is a
Yeah.
game. Nobody shows for the hearings, and nobody goes looking for them, and nobody knows where they go. And once they have their notice of hearing, they're not technically legal, but they get to stay
Right.
here until their hearing date. And again, they
Right.
never go home. So the Biden administration's policy, they won't say it out loud because they know it's illegal and unconstitutional. Their policy, in fact, in the reality, is open borders. They bring the people here, they bring them across the border, and they pump them into the interior.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
that's what's going on. They now want to say all of a sudden that Joe's concerned about the border, but he needs new legislation. As you point
Right.
out, that's a lie. He doesn't
Yeah.
need any legislation. The border was under control. Trump was in office. Trump left. The border immediately ceased to exist. There weren't any
Yeah.
changes to the law,
Yeah.
right? I mean,
Yeah.
it's the same law. We don't need any law. We need a guy who will enforce the law. I mean, the man who is the commander in chief, illegitimate as he may be, is actively working to undermine national security and against the interests of the United States.
Yeah. The opposite of his oath. The opposite.
100%
That's his primary
unconstitutional.
job.
He's
You know,
violated his oath. Yes.
yeah, and one thing that I will say too about the notice to appear, the rhetoric that I'm hearing from the NGOs, people, that this is the trickle down narrative about the notice to appear. You mentioned that does not make them legal, but what people are being told now is that once they have that piece of paper, they are legal. And I want to give you an analogy, everybody, that explains why that doesn't mean what people think it means. If you go to get your car inspected and you fail inspection, they're going to put a rejection sticker on there. And if you know how to work the system, you can call your garage and make an appointment to get the car fixed. And you can drive the car around with the rejection sticker on it. And if you get pulled over, you're going to say, "Oh, I have an appointment to get that fixed." Whether you get to the appointment or not, you're going to play that, you're going to work the system to, show the officer that you have, an appointment. And sometimes that works. A lot of times it works, but it doesn't make you legal. It doesn't mean that you passed inspection. It just means that you're playing the system. And so, if anybody tells you that the notice to appear makes somebody legal, no, it just puts them into a system that is being played by the NGOs and the lawyers and the people that have a vested financial interest in keeping these people here. They're not the same thing, guys. Just be clear about that, because it's a gaslighting maneuver that I've seen happening a lot, and people genuinely believe that that piece of paper, that notice to appear, is suddenly like a magic wand that makes these people legal. No, they violated the law the minute they stepped over the border, and they're being coached to claim asylum,
Yes.
and they're being coached to game the system. And there's all kinds of ways that they do it. It's an exploitation of you and your resources and your family and your safety and your security, and it's really not humanitarian. The risks that they're putting on people who are coming here, it's not a humanitarian effort. It's just the opposite. So I just want people to understand that it's not a good thing. But
No.
they're using it and exploiting it to make it look like a legal and good maneuver.
Yeah, and they're just, I mean, they're just lying through their teeth
Yeah.
over and over and over, and then expecting you with a straight face to accept this. So, I
Yeah.
mean, let's just you these, you grab a hold of these people. You're now essentially taken what was originally intended as this really small, exceptional procedure we had for true refugees, what an
Yeah.
American in a common sense way would think, okay, this person might actually be a refugee. They're fleeing this specific persecution. And we have
Yeah.
taken this tiny loophole, if you will, and blown it up to encompass everybody. So, but back to the whole 10-year notice to appear thing. I mean, the notice for
Yeah.
the, which is real. I didn't make up that 10 year. That's there.
Right. Yeah.
Now being given are as much as 10 years out. Now you just let this guy in from wherever. Now he's got a notice to appear, and he gets to bop around the United States, waiting
Doing whatever.
for a decade. Now let's leave aside the fact that, I mean, you don't monitor and everything. How exactly do you in this construct, this insane, like bizarro universe construct, how exactly is Jojo from wherever
Hmm.
supposed to feed himself and clothe himself and find lodging for the
Yeah.
next decade?
Yeah.
In your plan, Biden administration, where's he going and how's he feeding him? Because the obvious answer is either that he becomes a ward of the state and we feed and clothe him forever at our expense, or you accept the fact that no matter what his status, the reality is he's going to go get a job, right? He's going to go take a job from a
Yeah.
lawful, a resident, American citizen, a permanent resident alien, somebody who's actually here legally. He's going to go take their job and work off the books and never
Yeah.
complain about working conditions. That's what he's going to do. So, I was doing
Yeah.
another show the other day. We were talking about the garment industry in Southern California. You and I have talked about that before. You
Yeah.
could walk in. There's actually a big clothing industry in Southern California now. A bunch of clothes that are made in the United States. You could walk into one of those places and see 500 women sitting down at sewing machines because they're almost all ladies. And if you found one of them that was actually legal, you'd probably have a heart attack and fall over. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not like one guy or one lady slipped through the net, man.
Yeah.
The whole
Yeah.
industry is based on the fact that you get to employ women at less than minimum wage because they
Yeah.
pay piecework with horrible
Yeah.
working conditions, or teenage girls that end up as basically prostitutes, right? Or people
Yeah.
standing on their feet 14 hours a day gutting chickens in Alabama.
Yeah, the poultry industry. And the sad thing about this is not a partisan issue. I want people to be clear about that. I'm very clear that I support President Trump, that I'm a conservative. Sam is a conservative. But the thing is, there are like the Chamber of Commerce actually supports this practice
Yep,
of labor trafficking, and
yep.
that's largely in many ways a conservative organization, and a
Hmm.
lot of the members are conservative. They call themselves Republicans. So we're actually calling out both sides of the aisle here. And if you haven't figured it out, we're talking about the uniparty. We're talking about the people that Sam is referring to as rhinos, Republican in name only, that really pay lip service to protecting American interests, but they actually vote for and stand behind policies that are exploiting people like this. And you know, there's complications to it that we could go into, but I wanted to address one thing about the asylum issue as well, because we have, you mentioned, a legitimate crisis that produces refugees. One of the things that it should be obvious to people: when everybody is claiming asylum, then asylum ceases to exist. That should just be logical. That it's like the boy that cried wolf. You
Yep.
can't all be victims. You can't all be refugees. Then it's no longer a refugee. So let's just be clear about that. Um, asylum status is legally supposed to be reserved for people that are escaping actual persecution, but that's been watered down just like everything else. And so the process, the whole system has been completely watered down. Now, I want to talk about some of the people that are coming into the country, but let's take a quick break before we do that. I just want to remind my listeners of some of the ways that they can support the show. So hold on just a second, Sam. There you go. Listen, guys. I want to remind you that this channel is listener supported. And so if you're listening on replay, if you're listening live, this is the time for me to remind things. First of all, if you go to my website, marygracemedia.com, please join my mailing list. That way, you will never miss a show. You will never miss a notification because I send out an email before I go live. And I'm not going to spam you. I'm mostly going to send you that email so that you can have a link to click to go directly to whatever platform it is you want to watch the show, marygracemedia.com. The other thing we have over there is we have a lot of really good affiliate partners. If you click on the shopping link, you can find all sorts of partners that we partner with. We've got our superfoods, we've got gold and silver, we've got my pillow. They're all over there at marygracemedia.com. We have a link to General Flynn's books, The Fifth Generation Warfare. And I want to focus specifically today on a couple of affiliate partners that we have. The first one is Beverly Hills Precious Metals Exchange. That's our friend Andrew Sorcini. Now, I like to give people choices. We do have another partner that we work with. We've just recently brought Andrew Sorcini on board over at Beverly Hills Precious Metals.com. It's bh-pm.com. The number there is 866 346 5325, 866 346 5325. If you are thinking about maybe transferring some of your IRA, your retirement account, cash in the bank into physical gold and silver, this is who you want to call. You may not have ever really thought about this before, and I want you to do a couple of things. I want you to give them a call, click the link, set up the free consultation. The next thing I want you to do is pray about it and really make an informed decision. Don't make an emotional decision. Don't do it because I'm telling you to do it. It's really a decision that you have to make. And then lastly, no matter what you do, just take action. Take action and make that call today, 866 346 5325. Tell them that Mary Grace sent you. The other thing is, a lot of people ask me, what can I do for my health? I had to fire my doctor. They fired me because I wouldn't get the shot. And I have a solution now. This is a company, Synapse Center for Health and Healing. Our friend, Dr. Troy Sproul, he is over there with his team to take any questions, to give you a free consultation to see if this might be the best solution for your medical needs. Most people just need a doctor to check in with maybe once a year, get your blood work done, check in and see what, if the medications you're taking are right for you, whatever it is. Sometimes you have an acute situation, but this is an amazing group of practitioners. They have a big team over there. They're treating you like a human being. They're not going to fire you if you don't have the shots, if you don't give your kids the shots. It is Synapse Center for Health and Healing. It's officialsynapse.com, and that's SYNAPSE. It's kind of a strange word, but SYNAPSE. Their number is 651 209 9906. When you go over there, just tell them that Mary Grace sent you. So back to our show. Thank you, everybody, for participating with that and for really supporting these affiliate partners. They're doing the best they can to bring you an America First product and to treat you like a real person that they actually care about, because it's a win-win relationship. So please support them and know that it's helping our show too. It's helping us stay on the air. So I thank you for everybody who does that. Now let's bring Sam back. Thank you, Sam, for giving us that little break there. It's good to have you back. So let's talk now. We've got another 15 minutes. Let's talk about sort of who's coming over the border and why. I mean, even if it was all, sunshine and roses and they were sending their best, what's the problem with what's happening right now and who's actually coming over the border?
Yeah, well, up front, just to respond to something that I saw in the chat while you were doing that, let me clarify where I stand on the Border Patrol. Okay, the Border Patrol is functioning as welcome wagon at the border, and they're spending most of their time doing administrative processing. And half the time there's nobody on the border because they're busy processing folks. That's not because I am not saying that's because the average Border Patrol guy and gal gets up every morning and says, hey, this is what I think we should be doing. Very much to the contrary. They're doing it because they're being ordered to do it. And nobody understands better than they do what the implications are. In fact, the Border Patrol Union, which is like 18,000 strong, just issued a statement, I think, 2 days ago now. Really, really powerful statement that basically says, in carefully couched language, we're not planning on fighting with the Texas National Guard or making them back off. Like, we know they're doing their job and we know they're doing the right thing. And in there is a statement. I encourage everybody to read it because you can find it online, where they say we're required something to the effect of we're required to follow the law and a lawful order will be followed, but a statement issued by, in their words, an outhouse lawyer does not equal a lawful order. In other words, saying pretty clearly, just because you send us something on a piece of paper that some lawyer wrote down does not necessarily compel us to do what you are ordering us to do. It is a very strong public statement by a group of federal employees saying, you're getting dangerously close to telling us to do stuff that's illegal and unconstitutional.
Okay.
Don't expect us to do it. So I just want to put that on record. All respect to these folks who are jammed up in a very hard place. Who's coming across the border? Well, first of all, overwhelmingly military-age men. I mean, people sympathetic to the issue and trying to play this up will send you endless pictures of women and children. I'm not saying none are coming across the border. But overwhelmingly, 80, 90%
Yeah.
in some cases, you're talking working age, military age guys. They're coming from all over the world. This is not just Central America. So you got the Middle East, you got South Asia, you got China. As Michael Giannis pointed out, always give him credit because he's the guy out there sweating blood in the jungle. A lot of these guys, particularly the Chinese, somehow come across the border or out of the Darien Gap, seeming like it was no big deal. Everybody else is half dead. They're
Yeah.
away clean, their clothes in dry bags and backpacks,
Yeah.
living in groups, seeming kind of like they're
Special forces.
organized. Yeah, he has used the term special forces, and he was special forces, so he knows of what he speaks. Is that
Yeah.
everybody? Is that anyone saying every one of these guys is some saboteur? No. But the point is, there's a lot of questions here, and nobody is bothering to answer any of them. Also, by the way, this whole thing about, the sort of penniless detritus of the world washing up on our shores, they got nowhere else to go. Look, the Chinese fly into Ecuador because they can get in there without a visa, and then they come from Ecuador. But also they fly into Mexico on tourist visas.
Mm-hmm.
To get a tourist visa from China, you basically have to buy a package vacation tour at a beach resort. So these Chinese will buy airfare across the Pacific, a week or 2 week vacation at a Mexican
Yeah.
resort. I'm not making this up because that's required to get your visa. And then on top of that, pay a smuggler tens of thousands of dollars to bring them to the border. So you're supposed to believe that this guy is a penniless factory worker from China who has no place else to go, but somehow they came up with 30, 40, 50 grand a
Yeah.
month. They also fly, by the way, the Chinese into the Bahamas, where they have been noted on many occasions. This is regular practice now. They buy 30, 40-foot cabin cruisers. I'm not talking about rowboats. Better boat, I'm guessing, than virtually anybody watching this program ever got. And
Yeah.
then they navigate across the ocean, the Atlantic, from the Bahamas to Florida,
It's not that far.
literally sail into marinas in Florida. Now, so you had all the money to fly all the way there from China, buy a boat, and then somehow or another you also know how to navigate that boat and make it across roughly
Yeah.
100 miles of open sea and enter a marina. Now, you would think at a minimum, by the way, the largest Chinese embassy in the world is
Nassau.
in the Bahamas.
Yeah.
Very strange. They're not there getting the tan. Their estimate is there's something like 600 Chinese intelligence officers in that embassy.
Wow. Wow.
So, out of a hotbed of Chinese intelligence activity, the only explanation is obviously it's focused on the United States. You got guys showing up buying boats with tens of thousands of dollars to throw around, navigating into ports in the Florida. In Florida, you would think somebody would say, "Whoa, hang on, before we cut you loose, let's figure out who the hell you really are and why you're here and where you're going and what your intentions are." None of that is happening.
Right.
They are
Right.
clueless.
It's it, I mean, it really leaves you speechless. And this is where I think that as a Christian, you know, I I have really had to dig deep in my faith and understand that, first of all, do I care about people around the world? Yes, I do. But I also care about my nation. And, borders are really big deal in the Bible. And so Christians who are being gaslit or who are telling you that it's not Christian to want to keep people out of the country apparently haven't read the Bible. Because, even in Jesus's time, the whole story about everything that he does, he's crossing borders all the time. He's going from Syria to Damascus to here. Like, that's because there's borders. And, each nation is different. And and the truth is, that's the way that things are supposed to be. But also, at what point, at some point, our country has to put on our own oxygen mask before we take in the so-called poor and huddled masses, which you have just explained they aren't actually the poor and huddled masses. Um, you know, we have to have priorities. Having priorities is not racist. Having priorities is not unchristian. Having priorities is not uncharitable. It's not inhumane. It is actually one of the most humane things you can do. And knowing, however, that our government and the people that we've put in positions of leadership have chosen not to solve this problem, it's one of the things, I'll be honest, it kind of keeps me awake at night. And so I really have to dig deep in my faith and understand that this is a big God-sized problem at this point, that we really need to pray for supernatural solutions, for intervention, for godly intervention, which we've seen throughout history. But I just don't see this as being a human solved problem at this point, because it's so big and it's on so many fronts. I mean, you're a man of faith. How can you weigh in on this? I just it's frustrating. I know everybody's frustrated.
Yeah, look, I am a man of faith. I'm maybe not the most demonstrative fellow, as folks have probably noticed, but I will.
You're a spy.
I talk to, yeah, that's right. Well, that's right. The poker face went in place a long
Yeah.
time ago, and it stays in place, as you know. Not always, but most of the time.
I know you're a big softy. You got those grandchildrens and the little
That's
puppies
right.
and the
We
kittens.
were just here for a few days, driving me crazy. In fact, I'm
Yeah.
sitting in my office, which I have just barely dug out from the chaos of the toys that were spewed about, where I was being shot with bow and arrow, rubber tipped indoor bow and arrow, by the way, for everybody. Only a few days.
Nerf.
Look, um, yeah, I talked to God, and I will guarantee you that I have prayed very fervently
Yeah.
at moments in my life, and I feel that I they were heard. The magnitude of what we're facing, I think, is so horrifying and breathtaking, and I don't know what other adjectives to attach to it, that it's very hard for people to face, and I understand why they don't want to face it. It's very human. It's why people would prefer to call Biden weak-kneed and feckless and incompetent.
Yeah.
Now, he personally may be at this point so demented that he doesn't even know what's going on. But the point is, obviously, we're talking about his administration.
Yeah.
They're not trying to control the border. They're succeeding in doing exactly
Yeah.
what they intend, and it is most definitely an invasion. Uh,
Yeah.
and to anybody that starts going down this moral high road of saying sort of you're evil and heartless if you don't want to let all these people stay, I would say, well, look, man. I mean, as everybody knows, the real skeleton in my closet is I'm a lawyer, so I'm always looking for what's the
Yeah.
guiding principle. What's the principle then? If the principle is everybody should have a right to come here, then in God's name, why are you making them go through the jungle in the Darien Gap? Why are you making them pay drug smugglers to bring them here? If that's your belief, then why are you so inhuman that you
Yeah.
require them to go through these ordeals? I mean, the UN, as you know, when women start north through the Central America, one of the things they hand them are rape kits
Yeah.
filled with morning after pills and condoms
Yeah.
because they know they will not just be raped, but raped repeatedly on the
Yeah.
way north. And so they're supposed to ask their rapist to put on a condom and then take a morning after pill. Now, you're going to tell me this. I mean, if your plan is everybody should be able to go here, then cool. Let's start sending contract jetliners into New Delhi, India, and opening the doors and just saying everybody that wants to go to the US get on board. I mean, if
Yeah.
that's the deal, if that's your principle and we're going to pay for it and you think that's fine, then stop this pretense.
Yeah.
Let's just do it. Fly him here. Obviously, everybody says, well, that's insane. We can't bring everybody here. And you're right.
Yeah.
We can't bring the whole population of the world here. That's
Yeah.
the point. That's why we have borders. I mean, look, man, when I traveled around all over the world, as you know, with my family, and my wife is also an
Yeah.
intelligence officer, also an ops officer, a better one than me,
Yeah.
better looking. Um, we had 4 kids. We had a Filipina nanny that traveled with us named Teresita for years and years and years. She was on the waiting list to come to the United States as a legal immigrant. She sat on the waiting list for 17 years. She is now in Chicago. She's an American cit. She's here with her family. She's a great lady, part of our
Yeah.
family, obviously.
Yeah.
Imagine what Tessie, I'm sorry, Teresita, thinks about the idea that it was okay for her to sit on a waiting list,
Yeah.
working her butt off for 17 years. But you're going to tell me this guy just blew past everything,
Yeah.
walked into the country illegally, and now you're giving him free room and
Yeah.
board? Come on.
Well, and they don't even have to go through TSA. I mean, there's a separate line in the airport that they don't have. There's posters up like if you
Yes.
don't have an ID. I'm tempted to try it next time I fly, just to put my ID away and just say I don't have an ID.
Well,
And
you're 100% right. Look, so
yeah,
what happens is when these folks show up at the border, they find piles and piles and piles of identification documents on the
yeah,
Mexican side. They ditch their identification documents deliberately so they'll have no ID when they arrive.
yeah,
Now, there's a whole bunch of motives for that. One of them, a bunch of them are really nefarious, like I'm a terrorist, I'm a drug smuggler.
yeah,
But in any event, nobody has any clue who the heck they are.
yeah. They
They're
just
not
make up a
carrying any
name.
ID. You told me your name is whatever. It's the equivalent of John Smith in terms of being generic. I have no clue. I process you 2 days later using your what amounts to your arrest documents.
Yeah.
We're now putting you on an airliner in the United States. The Americans are going through checks and having to show ID. Actually, now you're photographed at airports, right? Typically,
Oh,
they're
no,
allowed,
it's a facial scanner. They're
no,
putting you
they're
through.
allowed to refuse to do that. And when there are too many of them coming through, they will open a special lane, as you
Yeah,
suggested. So this person who just came here, who we know one thing for sure, they're willing to break our law.
yeah.
We have no idea who they are. They don't want to be photographed, but we'll prioritize getting them on
Hmm.
the plane. There are reports coming from the border. If you're flying out of Phoenix, sometimes 80% of the people
Yeah.
on these aircraft are illegals flying at
Yeah.
your expense because they're being given tickets by an NGO, but it's the Department of Homeland Security that gives
Mhm.
them the
Mhm.
contract. So
Yeah.
you're buying tickets to fly the illegal guy into Chicago or New York, but we don't even know
Yeah.
who the heck he is.
And meanwhile, the last 2 times I flew recently, I was randomly chosen after going through the X-ray, even though I have TSA PreCheck, and that means that I have done a face-to-face interview with fingerprints, in a real office in front of real human beings, and been background checked.
Right.
Even though I've had that, I've gotten randomly checked both times and been told, that it was just random. And the second time it happened, I refused. I just said, they wanted me to stand in the footprints and spread eagle and get felt up. And I said, well, I'm going to get my belongings. I'm not going to leave them on the belt. And and it was, just this big back and forth, right? And they were resisting me, and I said, "Am I being detained?" Because that's what it sounds like, and I said, "Regardless, I'm getting my purse. I'm getting my personal belongings," and I refused to stand in the footprints, and then when they brought somebody over, they didn't make me stand in the footprints, but they said, "Wait right here." I said, "I'll wait for a supervisor. That's the only way I'm gonna proceed here." And so
Good for you.
a supervisor came, it was a lady, she goes, "Oh, it happens to me all the time too. If you had been after the person in front of you, you wouldn't have gotten chosen." I said, "Yeah, I don't believe that." And I said, "Plus," oh, and they were wiping my hands for bomb residue. I said, "You need to be doing this to the people at the border that are coming across illegally with no papers and no vetting." I said, "Not to American citizens who've already been through the process for TSA PreCheck." And this guy that was listening, he goes, "Oh, well, we don't have any control over that. And besides, it would be racist." And at that point,
Yeah, that
Sam, I
makes sense.
didn't I didn't want to miss my flight. So I just clammed up. And then and then another passenger who watched the whole thing, he very jokingly looked at me. He goes, "Oh, it's obviously the way you look. That's why you're randomly chosen." And but it's just, I mean, this is a travesty. It's a farce what we're doing in this country. And I feel like in this case I'm in the same boat that I was in with the masks, which is, why am I the only one saying anything? Why, out of all these people that are going like sheep through the check-in, who are getting randomly selected, why is nobody else speaking up and saying, enough? We're getting on the plane and we're going, because we're no longer allowing you to stamp on our rights like this. You have violated our privacy. You've violated our right to travel for free and open passage. I mean, there's so many violations of the Patriot Act, but nobody's standing up. Well, if it makes us safer, safer from what?
Yeah.
I just
That,
have to rant. I just
I
that
well,
rant.
I started laughing. I apologize because I had this vision of being in an airport a number of years ago with my wife, who kept
Did
being told to walk back through a metal detector, and each trip through the metal detector, they required her to remove an additional layer of clothing until such time as she was down to this. Anyway, the bottom line was, at some point, Miss Gina announced that we're not going any further, and whatever entertainment you were getting out of this is now concluded. I'm getting my stuff unless you're physically restraining me. I'm moving
Yeah.
on. And
See, Gina and I need to take a trip together.
you guys, well, it would probably bail you out afterward. But I also, to be fair, I ended up a couple of years ago. I think it was in an airport in Atlanta,
Yeah.
with some TSA person lecturing me on something, and knowing a little bit about terrorism and how people get killed and blow things up, from based on my line of work. I started to explain all the real deficiencies in the security that an actual operative would use, and why what they were doing was worthless against any significant adversary.
Nice.
At which point, my wife, being smarter than I, intervened, thinking, very wisely, this will not get us on our plane any. This will not be calculated to get us on our aircraft if you start explaining how you would blow the place up, Sam. So,
Right, right.
how about you shut your mouth now and we'll go on vacation?
Oh, nice. Yeah, exactly. But seriously though, I was thinking as I was saying that, I was thinking I need to have uh like my legal team with me when I do this again. And wouldn't it be great? I mean, Gina and I could, go up
Yeah,
there,
you guys do like a special. That would be,
right? Refuse the facial recognition
look,
to
I
start with.
hear you, man. Gina and I were down in the Dominican
Yeah.
Republic
And
during
you
the
could be our lawyer.
yeah, during the we were in the Dominican Republic on vacation. It was during the COVID nonsense, and there was
Yeah.
an issue as to whether we were going to get back in the country
Hold,
because we weren't
hold on just a
vaccinated.
second. Hold on, it's Clay. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. You keep talking. I'm going to mute myself.
Yeah. Um, we were there, and it was during the nonsense when, since we weren't vaccinated, there was some question as to whether we were getting back in the country. And I said, half seriously at that point, um, look, if they tell us we can't get back in the country because we're not vaccinated, we'll just fly to Mexico, go to the border, start speaking Turkish, which we speak, and pass ourselves off as refugees, in which case we should get free transportation home and probably a cell phone out of it. So obviously, half seriously, but it is nonsensical. Again, as I was saying earlier, I feel very much for the men and women that are jammed up in this, like the Border Patrol folks. I mean, they've dedicated their lives, and they don't get paid a lot, and they risk their lives every day. And now they're out there being forced to basically violate their oaths every day. It's got to be sickening.
Yeah. Let's see. What am I trying to do here?
You were trying to decide if we were wrapping up.
Yeah, I'm trying to send an email. I'm trying to send a link. You keep talking. Keep talking. Okay, Sam's going to take over here for just a minute because I am
Well, I was just saying, I was talking about the Border
yeah.
Patrol. I mean, look, I can't stress that enough. I mean, there's a lot of, you know, you're out bumping around in the middle of nowhere. You have a really difficult job. You don't get paid a ton of money. You don't get much in the way of appreciation. And I think they do a spectacular job, have done a spectacular job, not only of protecting the country, but honestly being incredibly professional in dealing with the folks they apprehend. I mean, the Border Patrol operates a special, what amounts to emergency search and rescue unit that often choppers in when they discover illegals that have managed to get themselves in trouble, are dehydrated out in the middle of the desert in heat of summer, etc. You got folks out there on the, potentially going to die as a consequence. And these are people that are deliberately violating our laws, and yet the Border Patrol will chopper in, go in by four-wheel drive, whatever, and rescue these folks and get them to
Yeah.
hospitals and get them rehydrated and try desperately to save their lives. Now, man, that's
Yeah.
some real dedication to the mission that you're there. I mean, look, dude, you're out in the desert because you're trying to sneak into my country and break my law and evade capture. And despite all of that, I'm going to potentially put my life on the line to go save you and bring you into a hospital and get care. So, again, I would recommend everybody that they look for the Border Patrol union statement that was issued roughly 48 hours ago and read that language, because it's very carefully written. Obviously, there was a lawyer involved. It's
Mhm.
powerful
Mhm.
in the sense that it says, it makes clear we're not going to war with the National Guard of Texas, and we have all the respect for those guys,
Mhm.
and we'll follow lawful orders. But again, every piece of paper and outhouse lawyer drafts, their words, not mine, doesn't constitute a lawful order. We don't, just because you wrote it down on a piece of paper and signed it, doesn't make it something we actually have.
Good.
That's a warning shot. That's a shot that says the next statement is going to be that order was unlawful. We will not comply. And that's where the Biden administration has brought us, which is pretty
Yeah.
dramatic, to the point where you've got uniformed law enforcement officials getting ready to tell the supposed president, "You can pound sand, buddy."
Yeah. It's just, and I know we have whistleblowers coming forward, but honestly, the way that whistleblowers have been treated, I wouldn't. You can't blame more for not coming forward because
No,
they've been doxxed, they've lost
no.
their
Look,
protections, they don't have
I
immunity.
tell you,
I mean,
yes, that look,
right?
there's no meaningful protection for whistleblowers. I mean,
Yeah.
one of my a very close friend of mine was the number two guy in Benghazi when that whole thing went down and became the ambassador.
Wow.
The acting ambassador, what they call the charge when the ambassador was killed. I've talked to you about this before. He went before Congress after that and told the God's honest truth. This had nothing to do with the demonstration. We were attacked by a terrorist group. The whole line of the Obama administration is a lie. He told, under oath, the God's honest truth to the Congress of the United States. He was a senior State Department official and a man of integrity. What happened? They didn't prosecute him and they didn't overtly cashier him. They sent him for what's called euphemistically an out of body experience, which means they sent him for a couple of years to a think tank to supposedly broaden his experience, which allowed him to reach retirement age, and then they pushed him into retirement. So his reward for telling the truth about the killing of American citizens was to have his career ended and be pushed into private life. I know another lady, a retired intelligence officer who, working as a contractor, blew the whistle on misuse of insider threat programs where they are allowed to monitor your emails and communications, but only pursuant to very basically it's to help catch a Russian spy, a Chinese spy inside our apparatus.
Hmm.
Got to be very carefully managed because otherwise it turns into Big Brother and the government can just spy on everything you do. She blew the
Yeah.
whistle and said, look, all of the
Yeah.
safeguards required by law are blown off. This thing is being grossly abused and it
Hmm.
needs to be shut down. Within
Yeah.
48 hours, she was walked out of the building and her contract terminated because contractors, which is a huge number of the people within the federal government, especially the intelligence community, don't actually enjoy any whistleblower protection. That's a loophole. So her reward
Yeah.
as a retired officer was to be fired and silenced and told to go away.
Yeah.
That's that's routine.
Yeah. Alternatively, during COVID, there was a whistleblower provision in effect for employees who could narc on their
Yep.
employers for not
Yeah.
enforcing COVID CDC protocol, and that was working just
Oh,
fine.
that's
Those
right.
people
Yeah.
had ample protections. I had a friend who was running a business who they had an employee who blew the whistle on them, I think for not having enough hand sanitizer in the bathroom. It was something ridiculous. And then the health department came in. They had them on something like 9 infractions, and it was crazy. It was like tens of thousands of dollars per
Yeah.
infraction. And this woman came into their business, and the crazy thing is the woman, she was probably like 300 or 400 pounds. I'm not
Right.
kidding. And she was wearing one of those masks, and she was from the health department. And right, just like the health lead, the people that were supposedly in charge of, the national health department, the CDC, crazy, really unhealthy people. And it cost them, like, my friend, she's running the business 2 days of time sitting with this lady and then having to, take her employees off the clock and go and get interviewed by this person. And, they slapped them with, hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of fines. And it was, and then they gave them a deal, right? They said, well, we can knock it down to this. And it was like my friend, like she put her foot down, because they didn't have stickers and all that nonsense up. And my friend actually put her foot down. She goes, I'm not putting up plastic. She said, our business is built on our reputation is, how friendly we are and how we treat our patients and our customers, and we are not putting plastic up. it was just, but it was, they harassed her because of a whistleblower, and they were never told who it was, and they couldn't fire the person even though they suspected who it was, because it would have been
Right.
retaliation, right? So all the things you're talking about, somehow the COVID whistleblowers had special protection.
Yep.
Um, I don't know what happened to my chat on any of my platforms. I don't know if we're getting uh, censored now because of the things that we're talking about. Who knows? If you're still there in the chat, everybody, just say hello, uh, hit the hearts, click in, come back, give us a comment. I'm kind of waiting for Clay Clark to jump in and to come on the show. He was supposed to be here. That was him on the phone, and you guys love Clay, so we're just going to see if he clicks in. I my email wasn't working. Now I'm getting another. All right, Sam, take it away. Tell us about your dogs. You were supposed to bring your dogs on. I'm going to click out for just a second,
Okay.
guys. Here's Sam.
All right. So what I really ought to do, I guess, is a program where I just bring Homer on. Um, yeah. Well, it's cold, so where are the dogs? The dogs are inside, and the dogs are staying warm, and they're not hanging out with me in the office. They're probably watching rom-coms with Mama in front of the fire right now. Um, I I'm glad actually to see the commentary about the border patrol, and I was glad to have the opportunity to respond to that because I think there are a lot of good folks that are jammed up out there. I would really encourage everybody, wherever they are watching this, to get involved in any way you can on this question of the border. I mean, this is a true crisis, and I understand that we've been going through what seems like sort of an endless series of crises. But we've been talking for some time about the impending constitutional crisis over this issue. Well, it's no longer impending. I mean, we're here. It's This is as real as it gets. I mean, you have an American president who has decided that he's going to open the border. There is no border. We have free and unfettered migration. Anybody can show up. That's where we are. All right, I was getting ready to start
All right,
I
I'm
was getting
back.
ready to start tap dancing, but that would have been
No, that's okay. Everybody loves listening to you. Clay's going to come in just a minute. So, the yeah, we do need you to bring the puppies on though, because your baby puppy is no longer a baby, and we haven't
Oh my
actually
God, the
met her.
baby. No, I will bring her on next time. I mean, all she has to do
Yeah.
is come in here and stand up, and she can look into the camera. So she's now
Okay.
a
Good.
giant white wolf. Um, so she is a
Golden.
golden retriever, but she's what they
Yeah.
call an English retriever, which is a specific variety. So she is
Oh.
snow white. She's about a year old
Oh.
now, a little over a year old. She's very sweet.
Yeah.
She has discovered deer, and she
Oh.
chases the deer. And the deer are, of course, terrified of her because she's the size of a wolf, and she's actually faster than they are. But she has no intention other than playing with these interesting looking animals. A few days
Yeah.
ago, she took off after a whole bunch of deer here on my property. I mean, and
Oh.
she caught up with them and was running in the middle of this herd of deer. She wasn't nipping at their heels or chasing them anymore. She had passed some of them and was just running in the middle of them, and I think they were completely boggled by what the heck is going on here with this thing that is running with us and appears to just want to play. She's also a maniac in the snow, and we got a lot of snow up on the mountain this time of year, so she goes outside and just basically does the dog equivalent of making snow angels and running around and jumping and tossing toys up in the air and doing all of that kind of stuff. And then, of course, there is Homer, who is still a maniac and still yipping and trying to kill every cat in mine. Um, any event, back to the point I was making. I would really encourage everybody to just look at this situation involving the border and get involved in any way you can. If you can get involved in this convoy, I would encourage you to do so. And keep in mind, you don't have to. The way these things work is you don't have to jump on. You don't have to jump on and be tied to this and like I got to drive the full 2,000 miles. You can catch up with the convoy part way through, and you can drive with them for a few days and then cut away, or drive all the way with them to the border and then immediately cut away, or meet them at the border, or just show up along the route if you know. I mean, if you go to the website takeourborderback.com that's up here, you can see their route. They're actually going to multiple locations on the border, and you can intercept them and show up and wave flags and basically sort of cheer them on, which honestly is in itself incredibly valuable, right? Because it's encouragement to the people making the drive. It's a big deal. And it's also, I got to tell you from experience, a tremendous amount of camaraderie that's involved. She's back.
Oh, are you talking about the convoy?
I was
Oh,
encouraging
that's
people, just saying, basically, look, you don't have to say, I'm going to drive the whole 2,000 miles. You can cut
no,
in, you can
no.
cut out, you can meet them at the end. Even if you're just showing up, not just you're showing up along the route and waving and
Yeah,
holding signs and showing encouragement. It's a big deal. And
it's
Mary
amazing.
Grace, I've told you about my own experience out west of Frederick, standing there on the side
Yeah,
of the road, basically breaking down in tears at a random location because there are just average Americans who are all coming out just
yeah,
so
yeah.
excited to show their support. And it really
I had
restores your
this,
faith.
yeah. Well, I joined the convoy at Indianapolis, and then that's where I actually met Michael Yon in person, and he was riding shotgun with me and doing interviews live in the car. It was really fun, and we did an aerial view over the
Mhm.
convoy. It was amazing. Some of you guys might have seen that video, but I actually met Sam through the convoy.
Mhm.
And so that's how this friendship and this connection came about. And so you really, to anybody who's hesitating, don't hesitate. Go to a rally point, meet the convoy, meet the people, be ready to take pictures, make sure your phone is charged so you can take video and pictures. It's just a fantastic thing. And at the bigger rally points, you're also going to see a lot of vendors, and so you're going to be able to buy gear, and if you're in an area that's doing a rally point, I believe they probably also have room for vendors to come. So if you have a company or a product, I would get in touch with them and arrange to set up vending if you want to do that. I mean, it's just it's like it's great. It's so good. And if you want to contribute and you want to bring, coolers with waters and drinks and stuff for the drivers, that's a great thing to do, especially for truckers, because it's a big expense. And not only are they driving, but some of them are taking off work. Like, they'll pick up loads if they can and make it part of the run. But some of them are actually driving empty in between loads. And so, it's not a moneymaker for a lot of these people who are truckers, just to be clear about that. So, yeah, I mean, if you have a camper, join the convoy, but it's for anybody. It's for cars, trucks, personal vehicles. It's not just trucks this time. It's not just tractor trailers. So, listen, I'll give an update here. We had a call from Clay Clark. He was supposed to come on, and he's having technical issues. I had technical issues. I couldn't get him an email. Then he had tech issues. So that's just the way the cookie crumbles. But he'll be back on the show another day this week. So yeah, that's just where we are with all of this. So listen, before we sign off, Sam, is there anything else you want to tell our listeners here?
I would just rehash if you can participate in the convoy in any fashion, pieces of it,
Yeah,
showing up, stand on the side of the road, do it. Not only is it powerful, but you will be better for it. And maybe that sounds goofy, but once you do it,
yeah,
you will
it's
know what
worth
I'm
it.
talking about. Um,
Yeah, it
I have
really
told you
is.
before. Again, I just standing by that overpass and out in the mountains west of Frederick, and here's this Vietnam vet who's had his daughter push him out in a wheelchair as close as he can get to the interstate to wave a flag. And
Yeah.
I start tearing up actually just remembering that. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
but if you can't do that, then go to the go to takeourborderback.com and donate to help these folks. Donate online
Yeah.
to Operation Lone Star to help the National Guard. Do something, man.
Yeah.
Don't just sit at home and bellyache and say somebody ought to do something about it. Just just
Good.
get in the game one way or the other. It's your country. Take it back. Stop letting a bunch of chumps steal it from you.
Exactly, exactly. And one thing that we talked about before the show is, some of you guys have heard the song that I wrote for the
Yeah.
last trucker convoy, the Trucker's Prayer. So we're gonna revamp that song and get it out in public so that people can have access to it and share it and bring encouragement to all of the people who are going to be on this convoy, and we're going to figure out a way to make it downloadable and all those things. So, just yeah, that's going to be very exciting. Sam was encouraging me to do that, so we will make that
I've
available.
told people before, man, when we were up there in Erie, it wasn't even part of the program, and you just walked up to the front of the room and borrowed the guitar, I think, from like somebody else
Yeah,
and started
yeah,
singing this song, and I'm like, what the heck is going on here? Now, of course, I mean, keep in mind that I literally cannot carry a tune in a bucket, so I love music, but I am completely devoid of musical uh, ability. I see in the chat they're asking about website. And
Oh, it's right up here on the screen. Takeourborderback.com.
right.
It's right there on the screen. So if you're not watching, uh, you can write it down, or you can come back on the replay and screenshot this. Takeourborderback.com or Pennsylvania Patriot Coalition Facebook group,
If you go to Pennsylvania
right?
Patriot Coalition at Facebook, you'll have the links for that. You can also, as I
Good.
said before, if you want, donate directly to Operation Lone Star, which is Texas, and that is gov.texas. Just Google Operation Lone Star Texas, and there is an actual website at the office of the Texas governor, Operation Lone Star, and right on that page, as I'm opening it, gives you multiple options. You can donate to border transportation funding, to Texas border wall funding, to Texas border security funding. You can kind of tailor how they spend your
Good.
your cash, but one way or the
Excellent.
other, help
Yeah.
out, man.
Good, good. I love it. Listen, before we go, just want to remind everybody, go to marygracemedia.com. This is where you're going to get on the mailing list. You're also going to support our affiliate partners. And if you do like the content that you saw, please do partner with and buy something from the affiliate partners that we have there at marygracemedia.com. I want to highlight again our friends over at Beverly Hills Precious Metals, bh-pm.com, 866-346-5325. Just talk to them, figure out if it's right for you. They even have a team that helps you if you just don't know anything. If you've got questions, no question is a stupid question unless you don't ask it. So just call them, say, hey, I don't know. I don't know if I'm a right fit for this. Let me tell you what I got and see if you think it'll help for me to do this, to transfer some of my money or retirement into physical gold and silver. And then also take care of your physical health. Go to Synapse Center for Health and Healing. Give them a call, 651-209-9906. Go to officialsynapse.com and get signed up, get on a program, or just, get a doctor that doesn't hate you. Um, that doesn't take all their money from big pharma. I'm not kidding. So I think on that note, we'll just sign off here, I guess.
Very well put.
It's true though, sad but true.
Yes, very well put.
Okay, we'll be back again. And hey, for those of you who are big fans of my friend Praying Medic, we're lining up a show with him for this weekend. It's going to be Friday or Saturday, so don't touch that dial. Stay here on Mary Grace TV and come back for an episode of Conspiracy of Truth with me and my friend Praying Medic. I did say truth. I meant truth. Everybody have a great day. Thank you for being here. Sam Faddis. Take care, everybody.